remote cabin in the Delaware State Forest, near the Thunder Swamp Trail System, 6 backpackers, each living with physical challenges, plan to meet and hike together for the first time. As often happens when living with chronic health conditions, some would make it to this location, while others would not. This is the story of the 3 that did, and their journey together.
This project was gearing up over 15 months. We're all dealing with our own conditions, and all of us at times have to cancel stuff. It's the nature of our lives. We can't predict that, and that's part of the story. My name is Terry Craig. I also go by the name of the Disabled Hiker. The Disabled Hiker is an informational resource for people with chronic illness, basically wishing to access nature again. I live with CRPS, or complex regional pain syndrome. At one time I was a cabinet maker. I used to build big, extravagant cabinets, anything you could think of.
I'm the slow boat, so I might as well take the lead.
Plus, I don't know where we're going.
There's that too.
I live at about a number 5 pain level. Some days it's a little less, some days it's a lot more. I deal with a lot of flare-ups. All kinds of things affect my CRPS, especially since it's in the rib cage. I am very sensitive to pressure. I haven't been swimming in years, and I mean years and years, because I can't stand the pressure of the water on my ribs. I haven't laid flat on my back for more than 10-15 minutes at a time ever since the surgery. I just cannot do it. I feel like I'm being suffocated. Nobody's been able to explain why. It's just the way it is. The CRPS pain also comes down the inside of my arm. It go down my leg, in my hip. It can come up into my neck and into my jaw. That's the weirdest one, where it comes into my jaw, and it's very painful.
You came here this weekend all the way from West Virginia?
That's right. I live in a little town called Montrose, West Virginia. It's near Elkins, West Virginia. I'm a assistant principal at a middle school. And so it's a very stressful situation. Complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS, CRAPS without the A, it usually occurs after you have an injury, and your body still thinks that you're having this injury. Mine was a horseback riding incident 10 years ago in April, and I had a fusion in my back and a surgery, and so now my whole left leg, it feels like I have pins and needles, and it's burning and icy and hot at the same time, and it's a constant pain that never goes away. There's different stages of that. I'm in a stage that's pretty stable, but the further you go along, some stages your muscles start to atrophy and actually die. So the better health you can keep in, and the better you can keep yourself active and moving and blood flowing to all of that, helps prevent it from progressing. There's a pain level that I'm usually at with CRPS. Stress and changes in weather can cause flare-ups, and what those are when the pain, it kind of skyrockets, and those are my two triggers. Other people have different triggers, and so being outside and hiking help keep that stress level down, and they help the flare-ups from occurring. I would never be a cold weather hiker though, so it is something I have to enjoy during the warmer months.
My name is Tracy. My trail name's TNT. I live in Marshall's Creek, PA. I'm an adjunct professor in a veterinary technician program at Northampton Community College. I have degenerative inner ear nerve deafness, which is in the cochlea. It started when I was young, and 15 I started noticing, was noticeable. But what it is sound starts to, upper ranges and lower ranges start to dwindle. So the ranges come like this. And now I have a very low range of what I can hear. No upper, no lower. It's mid-range. I've been backpacking since a kid. My mom took us out backpacking as girls. We go backpacking, lived near the Appalachian Trail in Bangor. So I grew up hiking on the Appalachian Trail. So I just grew up with it, with my mom taking us girls out. So it's always been part of the family and what we did. Backpacking to me is my fix. If I'm anxious or things going on, it kind of recenters me. Okay. It just seems like when I'm out backpacking and in with nature, I'm going out on the trail, that when I leave the trail and go back home, everything kind of dissipates. It kind of just regrounds you. So I think it's very, to me, it's therapeutic. I hadn't considered myself broken. And I hate the word impaired, hearing impaired. Impaired means broken. I'm not broken. I just observe the world in a different way. And it's not a disability. In a lot of ways, it's a way, an ability, it's a gift of seeing the world differently than others. I just happened to be looking through hiker YouTube things and came upon Terry's disabled hiker, and I said, ooh, let me see this. And I'm like, oh, I can relate to some of those, though it's not deafness. And then found that he was doing this project. And then we were able to connect for me to be in this project. So I think I was led to this.
How on earth did you get involved in this project? I'm guessing about 8 hours away?
7 hours away. I saw it on a CRPS, and so I belong to various support groups online because it's a rare disease, and so there aren't many support groups. I've not met anyone. Terry's the first person I've met with CRPS, and so I saw it posted that they needed people, and so I thought, hey, I like to hike. I still do that, even though I'm have challenges that I have to face, and so I would like other people to know that, because a lot of what I see on my CRPS sites are people that are very depressed, and so they don't want to get out of bed, they don't want to do anything, and there's so much more to life than your disease or your illness, and so that's kind of what caught my attention.
The Disabled Hiker is also an accounting of my journey as the disabled hiker. All the equipment that I've readjusted for myself over the years, all the equipment that I've come to reinvent or even invent from the ground up that didn't exist before, I also tweak equipment that already exists so it's even more easy to use. I think a lot about what people are dealing with when they go out on the trail, and I try to incorporate that into my videos and into the equipment that I'm demonstrating or reviewing at the time. It's very interesting to actually put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand that now you have this difficulty. What would this cause you to do differently or operate differently, or what problems would it cause if you had to, if you had to use this piece of equipment without adjustment, and what adjustment would you make to make it more usable? So I try to use this in my video making. So in a lot of ways, the Disabled Hiker is about my journey as a disabled hiker. The distance is not the issue. The distance is not the point. It's not why you're out there. Neither is how fast you go. I've hiked with hikers that I can no longer hike with anymore because they love to cover the distance, but I can't. So it's nice that I go my pace.
And I'd like to create something that would allow others to go their own pace as well.
I'm going to give you some space.
Yeah, that probably is a good idea. Oh, good boy. Right in. Do you find it's a bit even, or is it more people have it from an injury, or more people have it from a surgery? Is it kind of a little bit of a balance? Like
It seems to be a balance. Somebody had carpal tunnel surgery. Somebody rolled their ankle.
right.
So they aren't sure the cause of it yet. Before my CRPS, I could just grab any equipment from a store. This time when we were ready to come, my husband usually carries a lot of the weight for me, which helps with the stress of that. Since he wasn't going to be with me, we had to check the weight of my pack. So without water, it was 25 pounds. So that was what we figured was as light as we could possibly do. I had to make sure to have medication in case I have a flare-up with me, and then I take supplements daily for nerve health and things. There's supplements you can take for that I do. Also, all my food, I picked freeze-dried kind of food, so that way it was lightweight. And then things touching my leg are very, very, very sensitive. So all the clothes I tried on, I was telling Terry I had to try on about 10 different pants, and it took about 3 or 4 different sessions to try on these pants to find a pair that was comfortable, that didn't hurt me. But when you are having these things that hurt you, touch your skin repeatedly, is about all you can do to try on a pair at a time. So that was one thing. The clothing that I have to wear had to be soft. My sleeping bag had to be very soft. And then I use essential oils to help prevent things and for pain. And so those are some things that we had to do. I use aromatherapy too, so I have a little necklace with me to help. It helps with stress. And then also I use topically. There's some that help calm your nerves on your skin. I use those. And then also any chemicals I put on my body, it kind of sends my nerves into like a shocking mode. So my bug spray is made out of essential oils and organic things. All the medication, that I use, there's very little chemicals. We tried to, any kind of first aid things that I thought I would need are all essential oils, because the chemicals kind of send my body into a shock, and then pain starts from there. And then a place to be comfortable. Yes. This amazing chair right here, it weighs a pound, and then the way it sits, it takes pressure off my back and my hip. I have to watch, because some chairs, I don't know if you've noticed, they kind of fold up around your legs, and that's very painful for me. And so this is an amazing invention.
I hiked the Appalachian Trail. My sister and I finished that in 1986. Back when frame packs were and heavy boots. I hiked the Thunder Swamp and Pinchot trails in the Adirondacks. Actually, I had my 21st birthday on the Appalachian Trail in Massachusetts. It was blueberry cobbler out of a Mountain House package. It tasted awful. When I read the package, it contained no blueberries. And it poured, but it was great. I hiked it with my sister, Tricia, who's 5 years older than me. We hadn't hiked a lot afterwards because, I was 21, she was 25, so you kind of go on and do your lives, And she's a marathon runner, and I became more of a tracker hiker. And recently, we just went hiking again. And it was interesting because it was 31 years later. And things just clicked again. It just clicked again. She slowed down for me, and I sped up a little bit for her. And we kind of just, like a sister thing, kind of understand each other, that she liked to do a time of getting there, and she understood that I have to look, there's a porcupine in the tree and all this. So we kind of help each other get what they want out of our trail. But it was interesting that we just clicked again after all those years of hiking. It took us 5 months to do trail, but we skipped Pennsylvania because we lived in Pennsylvania, and we did Pennsylvania first as a trial run. Because if you can do Pennsylvania, you can do any part of the Appalachian Trail. For that time period, it was a normal through hike. There wasn't the people that there is now, many people. Like, we were the only people on Springer Mountain when we started. Now, they wouldn't get it. It's different. I mean, there was no internet, there was no cell phones, it was just trail registers, and we had to do buddy systems and keep an eye who had not. So it was a different time. It didn't bother me that people were slower, or that I could go further than other people I was with, at all. I kind of embraced that. The section that we hiked, I hiked it many, many times. I didn't get to see how much I've missed. Because I was able to take my time and go slower and really, and I've studied those woods for 20 years, and really see things that I didn't, and smell things that I wasn't able to before. It made me realize that I need to slow down a little bit. I kind of shy away from doing group things because of the deafness. I don't get into conversations. And in a way, it's kind of scary to be in a group because you can be kind of isolated in a group. But because everybody had some type of disability, I knew it was a group that would understand. And that we were a group that would try to work with each other because we understand disability. I think it was a great experience that I didn't expect.
The CDC estimates that more than 53 million Americans live with some form of disability.
I'm really surprised how well this thing's doing those water crossings.
Very well.
But what does it mean to be disabled? The word itself elicits a wide range of responses.
That's beautiful. Well, with the word disability, I often think of not being able to do things that you want to do. And so certainly with my CRPS, there's times I feel disabled. Whereas other times I feel like it's a challenge and I have to overcome it. So I feel like I have both, and the CRPS lends to both. For example, for me, hiking is a challenge now. I don't feel like I'm disabled because I'm still able to do it. But some things I can't do anymore. I can't run a marathon anymore, so I feel like the CRPS has disabled me in that way. And so I think it's your attitude of how you look at it. And some people, I think, might have difficulty with the term disabled because they feel like they've overcome it and it's been a challenge, but they're able to overcome that. And I think that might be one reason that people have a problem with it. I could use them interchangeably because I'm still me, regardless of whether I have CRPS, regardless of whether I was blind or deaf, or if I had lupus or anything else. I'm still Shanna. And so if any words you want to describe me, I'm still me.
I hate the disability word. Because I don't have a disability. I'm not broken. I'm not impaired. And that the disability isn't on me. The disability is from the other side. I don't have a disability. I relate more to deaf culture because the way the hearing culture is towards me. Deaf culture isn't just the physical state of being deaf. It's a culture of people. I grew up in hearing culture, not deaf culture. So everybody around me was hearing. Nobody signed, anything like that. When I went to college, that's where I learned to sign. And then I was in deaf culture. I was in a deaf program, and then learned sign from the deaf. So I relate to deaf culture because of how they have to deal with hearing culture. Sometimes the ignorance of how people are towards deaf people. It's those around me that have the handicap, not me. I'm legally deaf, but I kind of reside in between the two worlds. I think I was put here to be a link between the two. Maybe not necessarily a willing link, but I felt that was my purpose, was to be the link between the two cultures, to join the two cultures.
So there's a lot of different ideas about this word disabled, and just why is it disabled, Hiker?
I liked the irreverence of it. And the fact that it's somewhat of an oxymoron. Cancels each other out.
The person drops a pen on the floor. He bends over, picks it up, and walks away. I drop a pen on the floor. The first thing I want to know is, how am I going to get down there to pick it up? And then once I do, how am I going to get back on my feet again? All of a sudden, there's 2 steps that most people don't have to think about. They bent down, they picked it up, they're gone. But you're stuck making a plan. And you start noticing that a lot of things in your life have become a plan. You have to plan, to pick up the pen. How are you going to pick up that heavy wash basket over there? How are you going to carry the groceries in from the car?
How are you going to get to the store now that you don't drive?
Everything becomes one of these little plans. And it wears you out. It really wears you out. It doesn't even occur to you until you actually have to start doing it. Then all of a sudden it occurs to you.
There's just so much that I used to do that I'm not able to do anymore. I mean, the word challenged just doesn't do it. It's more than challenged. And after working construction all my life, it's really hard for me not to identify with the word disabled.
I like the military saying, improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's one of the things that I feel that improvisation is part of how you get through every day.
Hey.
It is very essential that we are able to spend time out in the natural world. I think it drives down stress, anxiety. I think it helps us to accomplish things that we didn't think we were able to. I think it helps us to think outside of the box. I think it helps us to think beyond our normal means and the things that we usually have at hand around us all the time. I think it also allows us to expand our mind beyond the daily pain and the doctor visits and the therapy visits and all these things that constantly remind us that we are not well. These things bombard us all the time throughout our daily lives. Even when we don't have a doctor's appointment, these things bombard us all the time. So it's nice to kind of take this vacation from yourself, to think in a different way, to live in a different way.
Come. Let's go. Boy.
My 2-year-old says, "Is this your bad leg, Mommy, or is this your new leg, Mommy?" My kids can't climb on me. I always kind of protect myself, or my husband goes first. When they can't hug me from this side because the pain comes up to here. My parents have dogs, and I was talking to Terry about his dog. He seemed to know which was my side that hurt, because my parents' dogs, they just kind of come and they'll wag and they're happy to see you, but any touch on this, it's like 1,000 knives. And so I always kind of protect myself, or my husband goes first. Sometimes if I'm in pain, I have to cancel plans last minute, so it makes it very hard for us to plan to do things. In the past 3 years, I've had 3 very bad flare-ups, which is very good. I hear other people's stories, and some people have bad flares once every week or so. And so I feel very fortunate. When I'm working, I have probably a flare-up once a week or so. And so during that time, sometimes I have to go in my office, I have to shut the door, or when I get home, I have to take some medication that will help me. Hiking, I say, is a non-stressful situation, and those flare-ups, when I'm able to catch them and catch the pain coming a little bit, I would say they rarely occur.
Pushing up to the dirt just like a seed, but you're never quite a flower. You feel more just like a weed. Driving through, you wanna know where you are going, but the windshield's always dirty, and you never get to see. What makes you think that you'll ever get there? What makes you think you deserve to know? Who are you really? Are you so important? Take a look around and watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold.
I think for anybody who has a chronic disease or a deafness, blindness, the benefits are amazing. I know a lot of people say to me, "Oh, Trace, I watch videos on YouTube or I read books, but I'm too scared to go out." And I ask them, is it your fear or someone else's fear on you? Even if they get out to walk in the park, city, or a 1/10 of a mile on a trail in nature, just get out there. Look out the window. If that's all you could do is look at nature out the window, just do it. But don't let other people's fears prevent you from doing it. If this is what you want, give it a try. Go out there. You'll be amazed how nature is the best cure for so many things. And if you know your instinct's telling you that's where you're supposed to go, do it, even if it's just this much. You feel the sunshine, you feel the cold, you smell what's around you. It's a total connection. And for some reason, it just seems to cleanse the body. Make it your experience. Hike your own hike, right? It's you. Nobody else. But get out there. The benefits are amazing.
Pushing up through the dirt just like a seed, but you're never quite a flower. You feel more just like a weed.
I wasn't expecting as many rocks as we had today. My pace is much slower. I don't have as much balance in my left foot as I did before, and my left foot also swells. So that means as the hike goes on, I have to loosen my boot, which therefore doesn't give me as much ankle support. We had one river crossing today, and it was really difficult for me because I had to put all of my weight on my left foot for a long period of time and balance until I could find a good footing for my other one. And so I use a trekking pole then to try to help tripod. Hiking being a slower pace and the ability to take more rest, it's something easier that I can do to be outside and help stay in a better shape.
Did I have any problems hiking in?
Yeah, I did. Especially the Dixon roller pack was off canter. And I realized it almost as soon as I started out that something had shifted, something had moved. And whereas everything was centered before, now things were shifted. I think it was Shanna who mentioned that the thing was leaning heavily, and that's when I knew that this was a concern. And when we got to the beaver pond with all the little spurs sticking up from where the beaver chews off the tree, things started getting a little hairy, and Shanna even had to lift the cart up over one of them so that I could get off of it was like giant punji sticks. Very interesting, Mr. Beaver. Tashoka was actually sporting a new pack, and we've had this problem for every pack that we've bought so far, that it rides off to the one side or the other, no matter how much I even it out. The only way that it doesn't ride to one side or the other is if I put virtually nothing in it, and then it'll ride pretty even. But I bought the pack so he could help carry his own equipment, because that's another issue for me, carrying extra gear for the dog. So it is important that he be able to carry equipment, but if the pack doesn't fit him well, I'm not quite sure what to do about that. I may have to design my own pack for him.
I'm able to tell when things are starting to flare up. For example, just a little bit ago, my pain level was starting to rise, so I took a break, read, laid down, did some meditation kind of breathing to de-stress and help that. Even though I didn't feel stressed being outside, the stress of carrying the pack on my body and setting up the tent and all of that still causes that sometimes.
After taking some time to relax, each of our hikers sat down with multimedia personality Jason Hedrington to reflect on the day's experiences.
So, you are experienced with these trails? Like, you've been here quite a bit. Do you have any interesting experiences in the past on these trails?
Oh, here are lots of things.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Porcupine down there.
Ah,
The beavers are down here. I came in the winter. It's called. And the otters. Lots of birds.
yeah.
Everything. I was at this spot that we're camping at now in May. I had an ice storm.
Was it hard getting back out? Was everything iced over?
I left real early as soon as the sun came up.
Right.
It was still cold, so I just wanted to leave.
Right.
Like, was there ever a hike that went bad because of the situation?
I've never had a hike that went bad because of it. I was on a run once, and somebody had their dog off the leash, and the dog jumped up on my bad leg and scratched it severely.
Right.
And so that caused a severe flare-up at that time, and I had to have help kind of coming to get me. But I wasn't very far from my home at that time because I was running a shorter distance. But hikes, normally, no. I'm able to tell when things are starting to flare up. Just a little bit ago, my pain level was starting to rise, so I took a break.
So as far as the pain goes, maybe describe what your specific challenges are. Like,
One of the things, most of the time I hike alone, so I bring this guy here. He's my hiking partner, my best friend, and when it comes right down to it, I rely on him. So I need to bring stuff so I know he's comfortable as well. You know, extra sleeping pad. I usually have to bring like some kind of a floor for my tent because he has nice claws, so it'll go through my tent if I'm not careful. Extra food. Nobody seems to make dehydrated dog food. But then there's things like, how am I going to hang a bear bag? How am I going to peg my tent down? Everything, even like bending over into the stream to get water. Everything is forethought. You know, whereas before you would just do it. Now you almost start running through these things before you ever even go out there. They can even turn into, oh, I can't do that. And I fight that a lot because I like to think that, you know, when I start thinking, oh, I can't, that's why I got to do it.
Did you change your way of thinking at all for your hike, knowing you would actually be with more people as opposed to being solo?
Yeah, it's actually a little anxiety
Right.
being with other people because I'm used to doing my own game,
Right.
right? And I don't have to worry if someone hears me. Just me and the dog, right?
Yeah.
So I'm with a group of people I never met before.
Right.
So that was a little anxiety on how that was going to go.
Feel very experienced with this trail where you just throw on your backpack and go?
Yeah, I'm here a lot. I hike a lot, you know, here, Adirondacks, Appalachian Trail. So I usually have my bag is always ready to go.
Right.
The only thing I've changed lately is I tried to lighten the load.
Right. Right.
So, you know, a smaller one-person tent from two-person.
Right.
Usually have my dog.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. A stove from the hard fuel now, then canisters.
Right. Right.
So,
Gotcha.
but I usually have some of my equipment's 30 years old
Still
because
working,
it works.
Yeah. Nice.
So, but others I had to change to lighten up. But my pack is always ready to go. Even the water bottles are filled.
Right.
So when it's good out, I could just grab my pack and go.
Yeah.
As I get older,
Yeah.
I can't carry
Right.
anymore. My feet would hurt,
Right.
shoulders, back. I just couldn't. I didn't have the stamina.
Right.
to carry that. So I lightened up the pack so I can enjoy better.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think you were walking into when you said, I'm going to join Terry Craig's disabled hiker group and we're going to go do this thing? Like,
I was really excited to see how different people adapt and to see if I could use anything that they use, any tips to make my life easier, and that we could share. My other expectation was to be able to help people, like I said, because so many people get down and trodden, and I've been there before. I've been through the stages of all this, accepting a permanent illness, and there's low places, there's really low places, and to help people get up from that. And then I was excited to meet people who had similar CRPS, because I've never actually met another person who has, because it's so rare. And so that was very nice to be able to talk about it and have somebody to understand what I'm feeling and going through, and to be able to empathize with me.
interesting. Terry's the first person you've had a face-to-face with that's your fellow CRPS?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, and most of my doctors have never met anybody that has had it before, and the only thing they know is what I tell them or give them access to through medical journals.
I know you've been also very innovative in creating and designing and building a lot of your own apparatuses, whether it's through the technical aspects of the filming or whether it's creating things to help disabled hikers. Tell us about that special little trailer that you have. And then maybe also talk us through some of your innovations you've had to come up with over the years to overcome some of the challenges.
I have some friends down in Florida. They actually take paraplegics out on trips like this, like on something called a trail runner, which is a one-wheeled cart that has one man in the back, one in the front, and then a third man with a tether in front to give pull. And I started looking into their website more, and they also do hiking with jogging strollers, where they take the jogging stroller apart, they put it in the middle, and it's nice flat land down there, so they go out hiking with jogging strollers that way. That's where I started. Bad idea with all these rocks. Then I went to a one-wheeled cart, which my friend Larry helped me try to figure out. And that's when my wife got tired of my experiments. Then for Christmas, she bought me the Dixon cart. As far as like gear that I've had to invent myself, there's been quite a bit, especially when it comes to putting a bear bag line up. For a while, I had one of those ball devices for your dog, those chuckers for the ball.
Right.
And that worked okay, but then I invented this year to try out. And we just tried it. It actually worked. I called it the Addle Battle, for lack of a better term. I don't like single-use items. So I actually designed this for the fact that I also need to be able to pick things up. And by carrying this around, it's like an extra arm. I don't have to bend over to reach and grab things. So, this is almost like two inventions in one. But that's the kind of things I do. Anything I can think of to make the experience easier for me.
So how does that thing work as the bear bag? I saw the spit at the end. Like, how's this?
It actually works with that ball there and the rope. But you put the ball in the groove at the top, and then you hold it like an open face fishing reel.
Right.
And then you can use it as a fulcrum, and it launches really, really high.
And that's why I'm glad I don't use rocks no more.
It worked.
It worked. Took a few tries, but it worked.
I was undiagnosed with CRPS for 5 years. And so I kept telling the different doctors that I have two kinds of pain. I had a back fusion, and I had that kind of pain, and it came and went, and it was an aching pain. And I told them I had this burning pain. And so they did all kinds of tests, and they couldn't tell what it was. We lived in Ohio at that time. And when we moved back home, I had a doctor who happened to be an ex-Navy SEAL. He touched my leg, and I jumped in horrible pain, and he said, "You have CRPS."
It was really strange that the first time I heard of CRPS was at a summit for the U.S. Pain Foundation only 2 years ago. I think it was 2015 when they sent me an invitation to come to the Ambassadors Summit. The wife and I went, and I decided to get involved. I was never really comfortable talking about my pain condition. I don't really like to put a lot of it out there about myself. But U.S. Pain Foundation has actually changed my mind about that. Chronic pain patients tend to be ignored. They're the first ones that get called crazy. You know, that they're making it up, or they're you know, it's all in their head. We've heard it all. We've heard it all. And funny thing is it's hard to find a chronic pain patient out there that has not heard these derogatory terms used in reference to them. It's one thing to be a patient. It's another thing to be a patient that tends to be ignored. We need to start advocating that we're not making it up. This could be you. This could be your mother or your father, anybody.
It's all ready?
Yep. That's also where I met Julian Phillips. Actually, I guess you could say he named this film. Now, Julian goes and testifies at congressional hearings and so forth, both state and federal level, about his condition and living with CRPS and a chronic pain condition. And on several occasions, he's handed his shoes to different legislators and asking them to walk a mile in his shoes. And I guess that's all any of us want when it comes to health care, is for us to be acknowledged that we're people too, just like anyone else, and we do not deserve to be marginalized or pushed aside. We're really going through this, and it's important that they know this.
That one took longer. Is your filter starting to get clogged?
To be honest, I'm getting a little weak.
I'm stepping on my hair.
I think it was interesting for me because my disability had nothing to do with pain. I might not hear things around it, but it doesn't slow me down. And being with people who have pain made me more appreciate that I don't have that. It made me understand more where they're coming from. I think we all learn something about our disabilities and how to work with each other.
And I have to take my medication.
My pain level can play a huge part in whether I have an appetite or not. So when dinner came around that first night, I didn't have much of an appetite at all. Instead, I decided to have a quick meeting with the production crew before they headed out and back to the cabin to recharge batteries for the following day. I did eventually eat something, but when my pain level is that high, eating can be very difficult. At that point, I'm eating strictly out of necessity and respect for where I am and what I'm doing at the time. When I come out here, especially when I'm alone, I'm also making a promise to my family that I'll take care of myself, and making sure I eat something, at least a little something, is part of that promise.
Any concerns about tomorrow? Are you just excited about it? Like, what is day 2 going to mean to you?
Well, I'm concerned how I'll sleep and if that will affect things tomorrow. But if it doesn't, then I'm excited for the day, so. I actually got up, used the restroom, got my food down so that way I could take my medication this morning. And as soon as I got in my tent, it poured.
I guess it was around the 7th. I started smelling the rain and seeing the water on my hands. Okay, back to bed.
I probably would have slept great without the weather. What gets me is I feel it the most when weather changes. So as soon as like the weather changes from hot to cold or from rain to dry, I feel that change.
It was a pretty rough night. It was cold and the ground isn't the best, the most conducive environment for pain. It also rained this morning, and so that drop in pressure really affected the pain level. So it was pretty rough, and I was down for a while this morning, but I got up. Then I started to go about the business of the day, brush my teeth and things like that, and that really helped to distract me from the pain. So now the sun's shining and the pain's better.
I'll look at the weather and it'll be all sunny days and everything, and I think, is it going to change totally on the second day? It's a bit of an old tent, so the seams are a little stressed, and I took on a little bit of water. So around, I don't know, maybe 7 this morning, I was out throwing a tarp over my tent to try to keep the water at bay.
do you always make sure, no matter what the forecast is, that you're prepared for a rain?
Yeah. That's why I had the tarp with me.
A lot of people ask me, is it scary at night? I'm like, no. I think most people who, especially if they're airing, they hear all these noises. Like when I was hiking my sister not too long ago, she said she kept hearing all these owls and different sounds. I don't hear them. So the woods are quiet. I don't hear wind, I don't hear water, I don't hear thunder. I've woken up sometimes and wondering what the flashing of light was and realized it was lightning because I don't hear the thunder. I'll smell things though. Like I know, the dog was growling not too long ago when we were hiking, and I smelt the wet coat of a bear go by the tent. But they don't scare me. Wildlife doesn't scare me. I know that. We're okay. But a lot of people get scared at dark. I don't think it's much the dark. It's what they hear that they can't see. But that doesn't bother me. I can sleep through it all. Hurricanes, tornadoes.
I did some yoga this morning too, which helped everything. So I try to do it every day some, but I wouldn't say I'm a yoga master or anything like that. But especially in times of pain, I do it. It definitely helps make me feel better. It helps calm things. It helps stretch things out, and it helps get the blood circulating and everything.
So I do what some people call earthing, which is just a matter of basically take my shoes off, putting your feet on the earth. A friend of mine asked me, and this was a really good question, it's like, when was the last time you actually were in touch, physical contact with the earth? And at that time, the only thing I could answer then was the last time I did sweat lodge. And that's actually what started clicking in my head. There's electromagnetic pulses that come from the earth. It's constant. But we kind of have unplugged ourselves from that. With shoes, sleeping mats, we never touch the earth, some of us. I do Native American sweat lodge. And I've always noticed that after sweat lodge, for about an hour, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, I get pain relief. And yes, sweat lodge is very difficult to do on a daily basis, so it's not something I can do all the time. And I always wondered where that came from. And the only thing I could think of was the earthing, the steam, the herbs that we use in the lodge itself. We burn a lot of osha root when before we sweat, a lot of sage, a lot of cedar, and I have to wonder. And earthing, I try to do that when I'm out here. I'll take my shoes off and just put them in the dirt. Try to soak up some electromagnetic energy.
There's things that I heard last year I don't hear this year. Things like there's certain voices that I can pinpoint, my husband, my son, my mother, and all that. I have a hard time hearing them now. So there are times when I miss that, especially with when my son would come home and say, I'm going to play the recorder, and I didn't hear that. Or my son would sing and I couldn't hear him sing. But I was able to join his face that he sang. So there's a lot in that earlier life where I could hear that sometimes I actually get angry. I want to hear him sing. When he was younger, I couldn't hear his stories he was telling me about things at school. So it made me angry that I missed those important things. There's sadness in that I know that I'm not going to be able to hear my son to say his I do's when he gets married, or hear grandchildren talk to me, and maybe not hear the music at all. There's always a feeling there, but there's some sorrow and sadness in that, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so I live for today. I realized I had to make a difference somehow, and it had to be for me. And I had to adjust my world with them and be happy for the things I was getting, and that I could see the joy in his face and understand that I could still feel things when I play music. I might not hear the music, but I can still feel that and be grateful for those things. Every day's a gift, right? Every day you wake up, right there's the gift, right? I don't have the anger anymore of it.
Yeah, go back to bed. Go back to bed.
So what's the general hiking plan today for the group?
Rest, nature, taking it all in. This is what I call a 0 day. I put a lot of effort into getting here. I should enjoy it. And if I pack up and just give myself another day like yesterday, it ups my pain level. By the time tomorrow comes around, I don't even want to hike anymore. So I like to take a day like this to wherever I am and just enjoy whatever's here. Trails, the river, everything. I was thinking about going across the bridge over here and then going up there's a confluence of streams, the Salt Creek, and I think the Red Rock is the other one. But the trail crosses a bridge and then goes up the Red Rock. So with nice waterfalls and stuff. So I figured that'd be a really nice little day hike where we can just take it easy.
No rain.
When we did the project, I didn't bring my dog because we were with people. The dog is my fifth sense. It's a special thing when you're hiking with a dog. There's such a connection between the two of you, understanding each other. You have to read each other and trust each other when you're hiking. And they go through everything with you. The distance, the cold, the rain, the sunshine, and the rainbows and all that. And they become part of you, part of your hike, of who you are. So when she wasn't with me, I missed her a lot. It was like there was something missing there. The connection of having her as part of my hike. So I don't think I'll ever be able to hike without a dog, not because of the deafness, because it's become part of me when I hike.
Okay. Here, I'm going to go down.
He sees me packing up and he gets excited. He loves being out there. He loves the wildlife. He loves the smells. He gets very excited when we're going to go. He's always been the type of hiking dog that likes to be with you. He's always like hanging out with you. Tushonka's name is in the Lakota language. Tushonka Wotagla means his horse is wild. As a service dog, Tushonka performs a couple of services for me. One is that if I fall, with the one word command, the word help, he will come over and stand in front of me and allow me to put my whole body weight on him and push myself up to my feet again. If I yell for help, he comes immediately. He's an incredible dog that way. He's constantly watching out for me. The other thing he does for me is he picks up small objects when I drop them. He's only just started doing this, so there's objects that he gets a little finicky about. He doesn't like anything that's metal, so he won't pick anything metal up. It probably feels weird in his teeth, so I kind of get that. He's also very, very intuitive about other hikers. I've met hikers where it's not like he growled at them or anything, but like if they go to put their hand out to pet him and he doesn't want anything to do with them, he'll hide behind my legs. And I found that interesting because usually the people he does that to, I end up feeling the same way about. Nobody's ever done me harm out on the trail or anything, but it's nice to know that somebody like him is actually watching out for me. He's very well trained. He has quite a list of commands that he knows, and he knows a lot of them in Okota.
Imagine, stay.
The other thing he does for me, as I have anxiety attacks, I found a lot of times he would actually seek me out and find me to comfort me and to get me out of my own head. He's a lot like that when I'm depressed too. A lot of times he'll just come and he'll just lay down next to me, put his head on my lap, anything to just pull me away from the moment. Some of the moments aren't so fun.
Where you going? Come on.
Earlier in the day, each of our hikers voiced concerns over the slippery rocks caused by the morning rains and the increased risk of mechanical injury. Unfortunately, these concerns would soon turn to reality. What was about to transpire would happen on a narrow strip of the trail which the film crew thought it best not to film on for safety reasons. Having slipped on the wet rocks, Terry fell on his left shoulder, side, and hip, the same side affected by his CRPS.
It scared me, and I was scared the whole rest of the day. Is it going to cause a flare? Is it going to make it get worse? But I tried not to think about it anymore, because so the stress wasn't.
Don't do too much though.
No, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to turn around. You guys can go ahead. And yeah, it's unexpected.
Maybe just less wind.
Yeah, I'm even hoping just just walking it off and seeing it, it doesn't calm down.
So it's your call.
I'm going to go on a little bit, but if I need to turn back, I want you guys to go on. I can make it back. That's okay. Go ahead.
Of course, I've had a few falls. It's very rare when I've had a fall and I can just get right back up and dust myself off, and off I go again. With the CRPS, it usually leads to much more painful days or hours ahead. So I dread those falls. I do what I can to prevent them.
What are some things that have happened to you on this hike so far that have just kind of maybe changed your view or that you've learned? Or?
I have realized today by working and watching Terry that I think I have it, if I can have it better having CRPS than him. I think having it in the leg is easier than having it in the arm and the upper body for hiking. He seems to struggle more with that because of the pressure on his back, and whereas I'm able to carry my pack up higher. And so I actually have realized how blessed and how lucky I am that even though I have this disease, it's not as bad as some people have it. So that's one thing that I've learned. Another thing that I've learned is I've seen all the inventions and all the stick-to-itness and persistence that people have. If there wasn't something out there, the people on the hike today have made it so they can continue doing it. And that's something that I hope that we're able to help people and teach people how to do, is that there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
Slow. Oh boy.
I think I've been able to spot things a little bit more because I'm not distracted by any sound or anything around me. There's no distraction. And sense of smell is really good. I can tell you if we're walking, there's a gray fox somewhere in the tree right away. Or there's a rattlesnake close, but I didn't hear him. I could smell, it's like an onion smell. They're somewhere close. So I think it's a combination of all that I've been able to track well. But I think most of all it's the passion. I was spotting the bear prints all over the place and no one seen them, so I pointed them out. After I pointed them out, then they were able to see them. And we were standing near the bridge. There was a tree, and I'm like, oh, there's a happy porcupine here because there's all these chews. And everybody was like, we didn't even notice that, the chews in it. And I said, yeah, this is how you know there's a porcupine here, and this is how you know if there's a beaver here. So then after that, they were like, oh, now we know what the porcupine looks like, and now we know what now they know what to look for.
There's times when the pain wins. The pain just gets too much and you can't handle it, and you have to call it and accept that you're making a good judgment call.
I'm not really going different far, but yeah.
He's turning around.
I'm running back. And yeah, keep going,
You lead. I'll let you lead because I don't know where I'm going. Be careful.
I will, promise.
When you look at how the day you originally thought it would go and now how it's turning out, do you basically just take the hike out of the middle and everything else stays the same, or is there things you'll have to do different now moving forward tonight?
The whole day has become a moment by moment. I'm just going to have to play it by ear. Because, yeah, I've had falls like this before where I pretty much just laid in my tent the rest of the day and just tried to feel better. Whatever I could do to make myself feel better. I'm just going to take it as slow as a turtle.
Do you find a fall like this could possibly linger into tomorrow? Like, is there going to be any extra challenges getting out of here tomorrow?
It could be. It could be. Which I'm really praying there's not. I pride myself on coming out here so I can take care of myself.
At least it seems like we didn't get too terribly far. Like, how are you feeling about the length of getting back? Like, you feel like you'll be completely okay, or even have some concerns about getting back to camp at this point?
No, I'll get back to camp okay. Right now, what worries me is tomorrow, to be honest with you. Tomorrow already is starting to sink in. You know, how bad is it going to be getting out of here? But yeah, once I get back to camp, I'm going to just try to relax and try to put that out of my mind as much as I can and focus on the moment. You know how it feels to be independent all your life. And when you're not independent, it really breaks you down. So, one upset like that can ruin a whole trip like this, but it shouldn't ruin the experience for the next time.
Can I help you?
As many times as I've fallen, as many times as I've been in pain out here, it never stops me from doing it again.
He found a fly.
That real blessing and seeing the real value of the group experience, because like I've just been sitting here watching as one by one, like everybody's checking in with everybody and showing their concerns, seeing what they can do to help, and like seeing the power of the group.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Let us know if you start to flare up bad and need to cut it short or whatever.
After a few hours of resting in my tent, I was able to get the pain somewhat under control, but it was pretty obvious that from this point on I was going to be dealing with a lot more pain. So I needed some kind of a distraction. So when I decided to go and get the bear bag, Tracy insisted on going with me. It's been a long time that I've been living with this chronic condition. So there's been a lot of times where I've had to stop and reevaluate and rethink, even pack up and go home. So there have been hikes that have gone wrong, but each one has only taught me more and taught me how to keep going. So I don't like to look at them as hikes that went wrong as much as learning experiences. Somebody once said that your mistakes are only mistakes if you stop trying. But if you continue to try, those mistakes are transformed into experiments in success. That if you are experimenting, you're expected to have failures. That those failures lead somewhere to success. when it comes to the bad hikes, it's not good to count them by numbers anyway. Count the good ones instead. That way you remember them more. You know, even if they are outnumbered by the bad ones, you'll find that they actually do still stick out in your mind better if you only count the good ones. But I realize too that there's coming a day when I probably won't be able to go alone. That's going to be a sad day indeed.
Still not moving too good. Still not moving too good.
You're not moving too good.
No.
Go back. This Italian restaurant is a wonderful atmosphere.
That's right.
Is there anything that makes that a particularly good bear bag?
For one, you don't have to worry about it getting wet. It's very, very watertight. So, like, you know, when we had rain last night, you didn't have to worry about, you know, waking up to a soggy meal.
I was thinking today about the trip that I depend on my husband so much. He's the only person I feel like I can be around and be my complete self. When I'm in complete pain, when I'm, you know, feel my best, and he can read that. And even with you all, I don't want you to have to take care of me, or I feel like I don't want to be a burden to anybody.
Yeah.
And so that's how I live. And I know you guys would be accepting of whatever I needed and helpful. But I've missed him a lot for lots of reasons. But that's one thing, because he's my support.
Right.
And that support is so important to have.
Because I feel the same way about my wife. She's really the only one that I can really be myself. People that know me really well have never seen me like you guys have seen me today.
Mm-hmm.
They've never seen it. It's hard to let that curtain down and let them see, you know, what's behind it.
When I had pneumonia, I had to teach my classes. It was winter. And so I have to lecture for 3 hours and then do a 3-hour lab. So I'd have to try and breathe, you know, and if you ever had pneumonia, it's like your lungs are on fire because the inflammation in the lung. So you're talking, losing fluid, right? Causes more inflammation. But my students have to have their class, so I have to put on the face.
Right.
They're like, we can hear you wheezing when we come on the door, but I had to put on a good face and not let them know that I was uncomfortable, because I needed them to enjoy the class.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever feel like it. You have to put on a face when you're in public.
Yeah.
Because you get tired of telling your story. You get tired of people saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And you want to say, "Really, I'm not okay," but you don't want to hear all the reasons I'm not okay. And you don't want to bring anybody down when you're having a bad day.
Right.
Because that's not my goal in life, is to bring people down. Also with the trip, I don't know, I mean, just from getting a little bit from you, I have a pretty close relationship with God, and it's been a very peaceful time for me to talk and to depend on Him.
Yeah.
A lot. And so that's been really nice. Kind of a sabbatical to get to just have a lot of conversation with God. So that's been really nice. with my students at school, some of them are so intuitive. They'll come up to me and they'll say, "You look like you need a hug today, Mrs. Parlock." And so they just come and give me a hug.
That must be awesome, though.
It is awesome. It is awesome.
Your own little support crew.
It is, and they don't even know. One day I did have to use my cane at work, and they were so concerned about me. They were like, "Are you okay?" Because I try not to use it, because that means I'm getting a pretty bad flare up.
After the nerve block, I had to be put in a room for several hours afterwards till they would allow me to leave. I couldn't stand.
My blood pressure dropped to all kinds of things, and I was in more pain then. And they're hoping, this doctor does a set of 3 every 4 weeks. You do 1, 4 weeks, 1, 4 weeks, and then 3 total. And then for a lot of patients, it'll put it in remission, and to where your pain level is down a lot lower. And that's kind of where I am right now. My pain level is probably about a 3 or a 4, unless I'm having a flare. Whereas this winter, it was about a 7 or an 8 on a daily basis.
Well, you said the cold.
Right. So I don't know if I'm going in remission or if it's the weather that helps as well. But even last night when I was cold, it wasn't as severe pain. It was just enough to keep me awake and I couldn't sleep. But it wasn't agonizing.
From what I've been told, it's the hungry bear you have to watch out for, the one that's starving to death.
Right.
Not the blueberry bear. Not the blueberry bear.
I get in trouble with the blueberries because I'll be eating the blueberries and Mr. Bear will be eating the blueberries. And we're kind of eating the blueberries, and he's chomping and snorting. I'm not hearing him. So it's like this lady keeps walking up this way. So sometimes we meet at the blueberry and we both startle each other like, ooh. One bear just went, oh, okay, you know, don't bother me, I'm eating my blueberries.
We found 2 prints. Bear prints.
We're down by the
One was by the river and one was by the path. They were big. They were bigger than her hand. Our food bag should be a lot lighter.
Yeah.
We probably should hang it before too long, before it gets dark.
Yeah, I'm thinking like now.
Yes. Before it gets dark.
Yes.
Do you have any advice or tips for new hikers?
Do your research with equipment and talk to people who experience and see where that is. Go to a store and try all the stuff on before you buy it. Some of the stores, they can rent stuff. But the main thing is don't think you can't do it. It's your hike. It doesn't matter how far you get. It's what you're only anticipating, what you want, not anybody else wants. Don't worry about what anybody else says. And a lot of people are going to say you can't. You can't do that. You know, I'll say, yes, you can. You know, and if they say, you know, why, you say, why not?
What is the dietary advice that they give that says, like, what's the dietary general advice you've heard?
One thing that they found with CRPS is that when you have inflammation in your cells, it makes it worse. So diets that cause that make it worse. For example, refined foods, sugars, white flours, things like that. Or you notice I use my legs. The nightshades, I don't know if you're familiar with those, nightshade vegetables. Some of those are eggplants, tomatoes, potatoes, peppers. I didn't realize how bad those affected me until I cut those out of my diet. And then my children will say, let's have spaghetti. And then the next day, my pain level's high. I don't have a flare, but the pain level is higher. So they were actually a little excited for me to be gone because they were going to have spaghetti and lasagna and things like that they don't get to have as much anymore. But my family's been very open to anything that can help me because they realize that I'm a better person. I'm able to be myself more. A better mother, a better wife, a better Shanna when I'm not in pain.
I've been backpacking since I was 23 years old. I guess you could say I never really did stop backpacking. It's just that my equipment needs were always changing. And that's probably one of the good things, that I never did stop backpacking, even as the CRPS grew more and more painful. I've always been innovating when it comes to backpacking, even when I was still physically fit and doing like sometimes like 10 miles a day. Thinking back, it almost seems impossible that I used to be able to cover that kind of territory. And today, I mean, I'm lucky if I cover a mile or two. It's just not possible. Innovating my way as I went, my equipment needs were always changing. 'Cause if I would have had to just do that all of a sudden, it probably would have taken me years. But as it was, by the time I was really struggling and I made the first disabled hiker video, I had already made a lot of innovations to my equipment by then. And it was kind of like, first disabled hiker was kind of like that. A lot of it was already there and operating, and had been. I like to think that if it doesn't exist yet, it's up to you to make it exist. To either take something that already exists and modify it so it fits the bill, or to create it right from scratch. It's up to you to make it exist.
Do you have any specific or general hiking advice for someone who might come to you and say, I need advice to get started, but I've got this condition?
The first advice I would say is start small. Start with 100 yards. Start with whatever you can do and see where you hurt, what your limitations are, and that'll kind of give you a jumping point. If you find you lose your balance, then you'll know that you need to use a trekking pole. But I would say don't just go buy a bunch of equipment until you kind of know what you need and what you're working with. And I would also say practice with people that you trust and can help you if you get stuck. My husband and I did that because he isn't here to carry the weight. So he said, let's go on a 2-mile hike. I'm going to have you carry all the weight and we'll see. And we'll go slow. And if I wasn't able to carry it, he was there to help me and to do that. And so support is key. And whether that's somebody that's disabled in some way or somebody that isn't, finding somebody that you can share things with and ideas and bounce things off of, I think is very important. It's very difficult if I'm in pain or at night for me to go to the bathroom how women do. They make a woman pee funnel. It allows you to go to the bathroom standing up like a man. And it's a wonderful invention. I did have to try it out in the shower a few times to get proficient in the use of it. but it's been very, very helpful.
Sleeping with Tashoka, I know that he feels a lot better being in a tent with me than just laying on the ground. As it is, it's kind of comical, but when wildlife comes outside the tent, I find he plays possum, where he'll close his eyes, and it's kind of funny because if you call his name, he'll close his eyes even tighter. The second night of the hike, as soon as I turned the light out, something came scurrying right over to the tent. It was sniffing around the tent. I could hear it, sniffing all around. And Tashoka would not move, would not budge. And I ended up barking at it and it ran off. And Tashoka woke up just long enough to look at me like, seriously? You're barking?
It is generally accepted by doctors that chronic illness can greatly increase the risk of suicide, and that chronic pain among those patients can double that risk. Ecotherapy, or nature therapy, is one of the ways doctors are combating the increased risk of depression, anxiety, and suicide by prescribing activities that include gardening, hiking, and even backpacking.
It's hard to wake up every day knowing that you're going to be in pain today, and you're going to be in pain tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, and after. And if you look at it that way, it can lead to some dark, dark places.
There's not a cure. There's not a medication directly for CRPS. There are so many different experimental drugs and things going on right now. I would say in the past 2 years I've been more successful. There's a lot of physical therapy kind of things you can do, changes in diets, things like that. So I've done a ton of research on ways to help prevent those flare-ups from happening. I did find a pain doctor, and so he deals just mostly with CRPS close to the DC area. So he has been wonderful because he understands what I'm going through. He understands ways to help, and he understands that, no, you can't touch her in her affected area. So he doesn't say, here, let me check you out, and so that's a big benefit.
It's the first time in years I don't have my dog. Yeah, but she doesn't like people. But because I'm used to doing my own game, just me and the dog. I think there's a misconception with the hearing person who thinks that hearing aids allows us to hear everything. It doesn't. It only enhances what we can hear. It can't make us hear what we can't. What happens is it distorts other things. It's distorted, kind of like a feedback. So it takes the focus off of what I'm reading. It's a distraction. And then on some of the sounds, I don't know what they are, because I never heard them before. So they're picking up some areas that maybe I wouldn't have heard before, and becomes a distraction. And I take him out, it's like, better.
The car ride was the scariest part of me coming up for the hike. I didn't know how I would do, especially because I was by myself. And so I was very thankful that I had a good day.
What was the concern about driving that long by yourself?
Sitting that long, traffic sometimes causes stress, those kinds of things. Not knowing where I was going, all those things cause stress. And even though for some people, and even for me, they're mild stressors, any kind of stress definitely causes the pain to increase. And when the pain increases, then my stress increases, and it's this vicious cycle. I'm not anticipating the drive home very much, but at the same time, I'm excited to see my family.
Right.
And I'm proud of myself that I did it without my major support groups, that I was able to do it I know we're together, but I was able to do it on my own without depending on anybody. So that makes me feel proud.
Yeah.
Because I don't usually go by myself.
Right. Well, it was just as different for me because I'm used to going by myself. And it was kind of different relying on other people. I've fallen like that before on my own out there, and it's a very lonely feeling to realize you're out there on your own, you're hurt, and you don't know how you're going to get out. But it was a very different feeling having you both with me. I didn't feel alone.
And you had mentioned that it was nice to have someone know how to help you. Like I said, do you need help? How can I help you?
Right.
I didn't just grab you.
Exactly. Like I said, a CRPS patient would know.
How have you felt being with this group?
I tried to embrace everything that was happening and found, it's different, but a nice different.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought was interesting is where one person's strength or weaknesses are the other person's strength. I was by myself, so if you're by yourself, you have to go with that.
Right.
I learned a lot of things. I've been in the woods for a long time. I have realized I have a lot to learn.
That's what I realized too, that I learned so much. We're willing to listen and take as much information as we can, and more open-minded. Not everyone tries to shove everything down your throat. It's, here's what I do. If you do it too, great. If you don't, that's okay too, because one thing doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
I think the reason I was open to the group is because I find even in deaf community, they understand, we would all understand even though different disabilities, right? Different problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But we'd all understand that. I think that's why I was really open to this group. It would have been a different type of group. I may not have.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I would have.
Do you sometimes feel like I'm in pain whether I sit, whether I stand, whether I lay, whether I hike? So
Yeah.
I might as well do what I love?
Yeah. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah, because the pain never goes away.
No. Yeah. If I keep moving, it's a good distraction.
Right.
For me,
You talked about that a lot. I use that a lot too, distraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, through this whole thing, my husband and I are a lot closer. And I have a closer relationship with God. I depend on Him all the time. And I want somehow this experience that I go through, the pain that I go through, to help somebody. And then if it helps somebody else, then it's working. Because sometimes I've been in really low places. And I don't ever want anybody to be in those low places. And so if it can help somebody get out of that,
place in some way when they feel like they don't have anybody. That's what my hope for all of this is.
After the fall on Saturday, I was in a lot of pain. And when I got up on Sunday morning, even though I was in a lot of extra pain, I just had this wave of determination where I was going to do it. I wasn't going to allow myself to be stopped. So I drove forward. I pushed and really I was surprised that I was actually one of the first ones that was packed up and ready to go. I figured I'd be the dead last because of how bad I felt, but I was actually first. I was amazed by that. And then it came time to put that pack on. That hurt. That really hurt. And as soon as I put it on, the thought came to mind, how am I going to actually get out of the woods now with this pack on? It really started sinking in the first time that I had to go over an obstacle. The first obstacle I came to and went over, it just sent a whole wave of pain throughout my back and my arm, down my leg. But I kept pushing on, because it was kind of like almost a blur, where I just kept pushing myself and pushing and pushing, and eventually I just said I had enough. I can't do it anymore. And after I had taken off the pack and the camera crew had decided to pull the pack out for me, I realized, wow, I made it halfway. I didn't think I was even a quarter of the way out of the woods yet. I thought I was still like really far from reaching the trailhead. And here I had actually made it halfway out of the woods. So I still amazed myself, even though I was disappointed because I couldn't make it all the way out of the woods with my own pack.
You'll be ready for a nice bed.
Oh, yeah.
It's been beautiful, and you have a chance to just get out and enjoy nature and what's been created, and it's been really relaxing. And so I didn't expect it to be that. I thought with people it might be, and a lot of people I didn't know, all the personalities meshing and stuff, I thought it would be it could have potential to be, you've seen reality TV shows, kind of crazy. But I've noticed that people that have different challenges or disabilities seem to be so much more empathetic and accepting of others and others' personalities and things. And that was something I thought I kind of knew, but I wasn't expecting that, and that's been really nice.
The people that I hiked with are now family. And I would love the opportunity to be able to tell our story, because I believe there's more to tell. The people who are watching the film, you need to have an open mind. Take down all the walls, just have an open mind. And realize that the people in this film, we all had different disabilities, but we all had the same therapy, the same healing, which is nature. All of us had that. The different disabilities, we had the same therapy that helped all of us. I want people to get that. That's the main thing out of this film. To realize how much nature does for people, all people.
I do feel that it's forced me to keep innovating. That since my condition will continue to worsen over time, that I'll have to constantly be coming up with new equipment and new ideas. I like to use the term disabled able, which to me translates that yes, you may have a challenge that you have to work around or whatever, but at the same time, what if that challenge, just made you grow? What if that challenge just brought you beyond your expectations of yourself? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be a plus?
There's so much more to life than your disease or your illness, and so that's kind of what caught my attention.
I would love the opportunity to be able to tell our story, because I believe there's more to tell. Not only to be with the other hikers or the family, but to tell more of our story.
Pushing up through the dirt just like a seed, but you're never quite a flower. You feel more just like a weed, driving through. You want to know where you are going, but the windshield's always dirty, and you never get to see. What makes you think that you'll ever get there? What makes you think you deserve to know? Who are you really? Are you so important? Take a look around and watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Need advice, you have no clue what you're doing. Moral compass it is spinning, an identity unhinged. Where to turn, where to turn? There are so many opinions, and they're all a little different, and the outlook's getting dim. What makes you think that you'll ever get there? What makes you think you deserve to know? Who are you really? Are you so important? Take a look around and watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. Watch the world unfold. growing up through the dirt just like a seed. But you're never quite a flower. You feel more just like a weed.
Don't seem to mind it, but ticks don't like it. So I've been using that. Like,
I'll put that in my bug repellent then that I have because I can use that under my clothing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We've had a good time.
That was actually perfect. While we're sitting here talking about bugs biting us and getting rid of ticks, he's over like, damn bugs!